Okay. We'll call this meeting to order. Roll call.
Okay, Chair Bruner,
Here.
Vice Chair Rich,
Here.
Board Member Clark,
Here.
Board Member Collin,
I think I hear him. Go ahead.
Board Member McDonald,
Here.
Board Member Campenny,
Here.
and Board Member Brackville.
Here.
Commissioner Collins has arrived. If the record show. Okay, we'll all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
May I get approval of the agenda?
I'll move approval. Second.
We have a motion, approval. We have a second. Any comments? All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And any comments from the public? Yes, sir, please.
Good afternoon. My name's Michael Circus. I'm actually a resident of Palm City, but I'm a substitute school teacher here in downtown Stewart, as well as a father of 2 daughters who go to school, actually right across the street. I'm coming, not really with a comment, more of a question. I got my email, my phone number on there for follow-up later. But the MPO meeting about a week or so ago, there was a plan for Dixie Highway rejuvenation that's being taken up, TAP grants through the city of Stewart. And I know it was pulled because the paperwork just got back to you guys not too long ago, and from what I understand, it's going to come from the CRA in the city before going back to the MPO. So I was just trying to find out if anybody had an idea, time frame, when that might be coming in front of you, and if I can get an email when that would come up, because there's a couple issues on the CapTech engineering plan that I really think need to be addressed prior to going forward. This way you guys have all the relevant data before you make your decisions. So
Okay,
I appreciate it.
We'll get back with you. It's Cypress. Circus.
Yes, just like the tank.
Mr. Circus. Thank you. Any more comments? No? Any comments from our board members?
Yeah, I have a comment.
Yes, sir.
I need to apologize to Mr. Mortel for sending him an email saying, what the hell are we having a meeting after it was canceled for? And I was completely wrong because there was another meeting that was canceled. You didn't even see it. So even though you didn't see it, I apologize for that.
All right.
That's all.
All right.
At least you showed up, Mr. Campenny.
Madam Mayor?
Yes.
Just to address the comment, I'm the chairman of the MPO, and we did have this, and it was premature for it to come to the MPO. I'm the one who actually wanted it pulled. We did have a short discussion just to get some input from primarily the county commissioners, but we will. I don't know the time frame yet, but I think maybe September will probably be coming back before the CRB.
Yes, so we're going to have an outreach meeting in August, and then it'll come to the board and then the MPO. So we're going to do our
Okay, so probably by about September, October, before we
Right.
get back to the MPO. I
Right.
think probably, I don't think we have a meeting in September.
No, so it'll be October, they'll go to MPO.
The MPO, so probably September before we get back to the city commission, by the time we get the community outreach out, so.
Mr. Circus, that was a quick answer. Okay. We don't, our action tonight is, I'm sorry.
Before the comments?
Yes, I apologize.
I just wanted, thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to ask the CRA staff we have June, July, and up until December, well, actually up until our budget season. I want to just see if we can have a recap or something at another CRA meeting on the status of the planning and design or whatever it is for MLK Boulevard and the funding and the status of the Guy Davis Park and something similar to that, just so that we can just keep that alongside with all the other activities that the city will consider in its regular general budget, not just CRA activities. Thank you.
Thank you. And to say I'm still not happy with the building on the corner not being painted. I would like to get that in a budget, but I know that maybe in a couple years we'll tear it down some. Anyway, I would love for it to, I still feel the same. I'd like to see it get painted. Okay?
Which building, which corner is that?
The
Maura?
annex building on the corner.
Okay.
There you go.
Yes,
Well
I'm-
done.
Yes, sir.
Madam Mayor, Mike Mortel, for the record. Following those comments at a city commission meeting, I met with the Public Works Director, and we walked the building, and it had been painted approximately 6 years ago, I think it was, and we actually had an artist paint a mural on the front side of it. So we walked, and there was no peeling paint anywhere on it, and there was nowhere that needed even updating of paint. So if it's that the color, I mean, it was painted white, so it's kind of a nondescript painting, but it wasn't that it was lack of maintenance. There isn't anywhere that even would need painting right now unless you wanted us to change the color on it. Because in the past, when commissioners have brought that up, when we go and we find that there's peeling paint or something like that, obviously we try to get in and update it. But I'm happy to review it and bring back some close-up pictures at the next meeting just to show you all what kind of condition it's in. Okay?
No, that's the color I wanted it painted, was white, but it was what I wanted. And I understand that it's new paint or not old.
Okay.
So, anyway. Our discussion and deliberation on business improvement grant program, the PIRP, the guidelines. And Ms. Jordan is going to give us our presentation.
Good afternoon, CRA board members. Jordan Pinkston, CRA program manager for the record. Today, staff would like to discuss the business improvement grant guidelines. We are bringing this item before you because over the past few cycles, we've noticed some pushback from applicants regarding landscape upgrades, as well as comments and concerns from board members pertaining to the program's current landscape and irrigation requirements. As you are aware, the intent of the Business Improvement Grant Program is to further the CRA plan objectives to eliminate blight by assisting property businesses and business owners in the redevelopment of existing businesses and site improvements, improve property values by creating an aesthetically attractive frontage that is inviting and improves visitors' experience and stimulates private investment within the CRA. To give you some brief history, the Property Improvement Grant Program was launched in 2009 to encourage visible exterior improvements to commercial and residential properties within the CRA. The grant program provided a matching grant of up to $4,000 per property. The grant was eligible for improvements such as windows, doors, signage, landscaping, roofing, architecture, streetscaping, park improvements, decorative shutters, and other improvements. That program had successful applications for projects including sign awnings, new windows, landscaping, architectural design, roof repairs, porch enclosures, and driveways. But the program was amended in 2016, 2017 to be renamed the Business Improvement Reimbursement Program, or BIRP. The program provided a reimbursement grant of up to $10,000 per property to match private funds. The grant was available to commercial businesses for exterior improvements that enhance the property, with improvements including windows, door replacement, decorative shutters, signage, landscaping, parking lots, driveways, streetscapes, included benches, shade trees, bike racks, architectures, which included additions to balconies, porches, and arcades, and other exterior facade improvements were considered on a case-by-case basis. That program was amended again in 2018 to replace eligible exterior improvements from exterior signage through the replacement of non-conforming pole signs to conforming freestanding or monument signs. And that's to encourage and provide financial support in bringing exterior signage into compliance with the city's land development code while enhancing the property. At the direction of the board, the program was significantly amended again in 2021 to encourage commercial property owners to upgrade landscaping on private property and bring it to compliance with the city's land development code where feasible, since many of the properties within the CRA were constructed prior to the adoption of the code. The amendment encourages property owners to upgrade landscaping to enhance the visible appearance of the property and provide shade along streets. We strongly encourage these improvements along the perimeter of property lines that abut the public right-of-way and interior parking lot. Also, in 2021, the evaluation matrix was amended to further encourage the property owners to provide landscape improvements as part of the overall site improvements and restrict funding for improvements such as replacements of windows, doors, replacements of existing awnings, exterior painting and lighting, and decorative shutters. These improvements were eligible for funding only as part of a more comprehensive site improvement. Since the program was amended in 2021 to encourage property owners to upgrade the landscaping, we have received 15 applications with various improvement requests, such as pole sign replacements, exterior paint, parking lot improvements, awning repairs, seating, fencing, etc. Most of these applications offered landscape enhancements as part of the original application request to meet minimum point requirements for funding. However, some of the applications required staff to make significant recommendations to amend original proposals to be considered eligible. Staff has noticed an increase in pushback from applicants regarding landscape recommendations. Concerns stem from the additional expense of adding permanent landscape improvements with the potential need for irrigation systems. However, with the current guidelines in place, staff cannot recommend funding for any improvements that do not include landscaping, even if those improvements are necessary or beneficial to the property owner. Please keep in mind that irrigation currently is not a requirement, but has been requested as a condition of approval for past applicants. For example, some of you may recall last year, staff allocated $50,000 in fiscal year 2023, $30,000 of which was awarded 3 applicants during the first cycle. The board requested to have a second application cycle in hopes of awarding the remaining $20,000 allocated for the program. The CRA received 7 applications for the fiscal year 2023 application cycle, which exceeded the total remaining funds. The CRB voted 3-1 in favor of approving the eligible applications with the following conditions. Irrigation shall be installed to preserve landscaping enhancements to all applications that include landscaping. The total grant match for eligible improvements will be reduced by 33%. And then upon CRA approval, the applicant will have 1 year for the project completion. If the project is not completed and not approved in its final inspection or does not receive a certificate of occupancy within 1 year of approval, the grant award shall expire. If the business improvement grant applicants Cycle 2 opt out of the program or award expires, unused funding from Cycle 2 will be then distributed to the remaining completed applicants for their original match request. However, it is important to know that the Community Redevelopment Agency decided to move forward with the funding of each application in full without accepting the conditions offered by the CRB board. Instead, a budget amendment was made for the overage. And then the program aims to encourage shade over pedestrian walkways, improve conditions for walking and pedestrian activities. And again, we amended the program guidelines to encourage businesses to upgrade landscaping as part of the overall improvements. The CRA continues to do outreach efforts to promote the program, which always includes distributing electronic newsletter to the city contact list, flyers to local businesses, mailing postcards, social media outlets such as Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. However, we believe our efforts are being overshadowed by the improvement limitations in the guidelines. Over the years, this program has been able to provide local businesses within the CRA some financial relief for improvements such as curb stops, resurfacing, restriping, mural preservation, entryway improvements, pavers, benches, monument signage, awnings, exterior paint, impact windows, gates, fences, bike racks, metal roofs, and landscaping, and that's just to name some. It is important to note that the majority of the improvements were not contingent on meeting a landscape requirement prior to 2021. According to today's guidelines, the following improvements are eligible for funding if the project meets our minimum evaluation criteria: restoring or sustainably beautifying the facade or elevation, exterior architectural amenities such as additions or improvements of new awnings, balconies, porches, entryways, or arcades, landscaping improvements that abut to a public right-of-way or interior parking lot landscaping, which includes but is not limited to asphalt removal, plant materials, native plants, shade trees, and irrigation systems, replacement of non-conforming pole signs to freestanding monument signs, property improvements such as lighting, fencing, benches, bicycle racks, walkway, driveway improvement, parking lot improvements, architectural, engineering, and landscape, design services for design, and that's a max of $500. But the following are not eligible for funding on their own, but may be funded as part of a more comprehensive facade improvement: replacement of windows and doors, replacement of wall air conditioning units on a building to energy-efficient central air conditioning system, replacement of existing awning, exterior cleaning and paint, exterior lighting, decorative Bahama or colonial shutters, exterior signage, and dumpster enclosures. Staff would like to mention that there are other cities and counties in Florida that offer similar programs to support facade improvements as part of their economic development initiatives to revitalize commercial properties, attract businesses, and enhance the aesthetic appeal of downtown area, special districts, and commercial areas. Some similar examples are Boynton Beach, who has a commercial facade and site improvement grant that provides a 50% match up to $50,000. Some examples of what's eligible are exterior paint, including murals, ADA improvements, signage, doors, windows, landscaping with irrigation, fencing, awning. Coral Springs offers a commercial property enhancement grant with a reimbursement in equal amount to 50% of eligible project costs. The total grant amount up to is the discretion of the CRA board. Dania Beach offers a commercial property improvement grant with a 30% match up to $20,000. Eligible improvements are landscaping, signage, awnings, impact windows, parking lot improvements, exterior painting, etc. Holly Hill offers a program that mirrors ours with a 50% match up to $10,000. Similar improvements. Mount Dora offers a commercial visual improvement grant program with a 50% match up to $10,000 of the project's hard construction costs. So the owner must pay for the soft costs, including an architect, engineer, permitting, etc. Martin County CRA offers a property improvement program and provides 80% of the project cost as a reimbursement up to a maximum of $20,000 per property to supplement private funds to pay for the design and construction of property improvements. Their eligible improvements are exterior painting, stucco, siding, installation of awnings, new windows, doors, signage, landscaping, parking lot improvements, repair of architectural elements, dumpster enclosures. Martin County also has a fence and landscape program that is designed to encourage visible exterior improvements of fencing, landscaping, to any commercial property or building to comply with the Land Development Code. And they will match 80% of the project cost and reimbursement up to a maximum of $10,000. And then the Community Redevelopment Board recommended modifications to the Business Improvement Grant Program guidelines, which included removing the landscape requirements from the application, as well as removing restrictions for awning replacements. They also recommended creating a separate landscape improvement grant program to fill in those gaps. The program would be for commercial businesses and offered year-round. The CRA would allocate $25,000 annually with a 50-50 match and a $5,000 maximum per application. So staff is hopeful that both the CRB and CRA can revisit the guidelines to ensure the success of the program and encourage applicants to apply. Some key topics we asked staff would like you to consider are 1, eligible improvements, specifically awnings and irrigation, the possibility of a separate landscape program, and then 3, the maximum grant amount offered to match the percentage. And with that, that concludes my presentation. Hope you can talk.
Thank you. So now we'll discuss it.
Madam Chair, CRB decided that it would be better if we changed the program and took out the landscaping so that more people would apply, and at the same time, if we had a separate program for landscaping, then we could have that done, and they could also ask for that. It wouldn't preclude them from doing so. I just think that not just I, but the board itself, I think we passed it unanimously, thought it was better with these guidelines.
Madam Chair?
Commissioner McDonald.
I just want to, on the landscaping, the irrigation portion, so the recommendation is to remove the landscaping from the program. Is that?
From the original program, and then do it under a
Separate.
landscaping.
Okay, and under the separate landscaping program, you're
Or next year. But even though it's small to some people, whether it's 10,000 or 30,000 or whatever that number is, there's still some people who are in the gap, and I know Mr. Campani said something about businesses, and I'd like for you to probably explain what you're talking about there. But it seems to me like we need people to have a smaller number, because some people just don't have that money. They don't have to get to that match. Maybe it's somebody who does have a small business. I just for example, I'd throw, like, say, when we had the roasted record coming or some other thing coming on, Colorado, maybe they just wanted just that extra amount to help them with a decent minimal landscaping plan, but they just don't have it. And maybe even 5,000 is too much. I don't know if we could go down or have different categories or levels or something other than this, the big number, the 25 and then the 5, because I think that there's some small people who are still not able to take advantage of it, because even at that, they can't come up with their 50%. And then there are other people who, if they had to come up with 10,000 or 25,000 or whatever it is, they could come up with it easily and possibly qualify for this grant. So I guess what I'm trying to say is that there are people who, over the years when we've seen the grant happen, is that people who probably could have paid for something anyway are able to get it because they can always quickly come up, or able some way to come up with their 50%. But then there's somebody who might have a smaller level business who's still not able to come up with, all of 2,000 or 3,000 or 5,000 or whatever that number is.
Commissioner
And
Clark.
can you explain again
Sure.
how we can make sure that we're not losing anybody in the gap and that we're getting, those really small people?
So there's actually no minimum requirement to apply for this grant program. There's just a maximum that we can allocate per application. So say if someone comes in and only is paying $5,000 worth of improvements, we would match them at $2,500.
2,500, yeah.
So
So if
our
they have
max
a
is
small
10.
thing, they can still come in with something. All right, that's fine.
Correct.
I looked at the language. Where is the language? I was looking at the language. Somebody else can make a comment while I'm looking back at the language, because this is what we're going to be using
Okay,
as
Commissioner
the
Clark, if I
application
could
packet.
Commissioner Clark, if I could just, because she does bring up a good point, and Panal, perhaps you can respond to it. It is difficult for some of these businesses to front the $5,000. Is that correct? Do you find that to be the case?
I think I don't think the match is an issue, because they do appreciate that the CRA is matching their project. So we haven't had any concerns about, we can't provide the match. That's not the problem.
No,
It's just
not on our part. I'm saying that the business owner says, well, I don't have the $5,000.
Yeah.
And, to expand while I have to wait for you to reimburse me. Do you find
Yeah,
that?
we haven't had that issue
No?
where
Okay.
somebody complained that I don't have the money up front to pay. That hasn't been an issue. It's really just the eligibility requirements.
Yeah, I think when that problem arises, it's when we add a condition of irrigation, that they
Irrigation,
weren't
there was a
expecting
problem,
that
but-
additional expense, or we want them to add another large shade tree that adds another $5,000 that they weren't expecting. I think that's the only problems we've
So
had.
Commissioner Clark, have you had businesses say to you, I just can't, I can't come up with the $3,000?
If I can respond briefly to that, too. I don't think anybody has affirmatively come into City Hall and said, I don't have the money. What we observed over the years, and I don't know in the last couple of years how it's been, because I haven't been paying as close attention, but there were several years that we didn't get $50,000 in applications, and it was surmised that the reason why people are not applying is because they have to pay up front the money that you're describing, Commissioner Rich, and as a result, there is nobody coming and knocking on the door and saying, hey, I filled out the application, but I can't do it because I don't have the matching funds. You don't actually get that verbal communication where they express that they don't have the financial wherewithal to do it. But the fact that we aren't inundated with every single business in downtown Stewart asking for free money tells you by itself that part of the reason why is because there's a buy-in up front that makes it more expensive than they can buy in. Because otherwise, why wouldn't everybody be knocking down the door? But I don't know if the last 3 or 4 years, have you guys had more applications than funding or less? So we only have $50,000 up for grabs and we don't give it all away.
And now we're going to have $25,000
What I'm
more.
saying is, but the reason that we didn't give it all away was because we literally didn't get $50,000 in applications.
And, Madam Chair, unless we're going to institute a program where we check their tax returns, how are we going to determine if they can afford it or not? Right now, it doesn't matter if your business makes $20 million a year or $20,000. Every business is eligible.
Yeah.
So I think we'll just make it, I mean, again, I think this is a nice, simple program. The CRA staff can administer it nice and simply,
Just keep it simple.
and let's keep it simple without trying to micromanage the program.
Mark wants to say something. Go ahead,
Yeah,
Mark.
thanks, Madam Chair. My comment on this as a business person myself and having property is that what I think I've seen is that nobody's coming forward for these grants unless they're planning on doing the work anyway. And so that's what they're doing, and using this money to supplement what they're doing. And I'm not sure that's what the purpose of this program was. Was the purpose of this program just to help business people pay what they were going to do anyway? Or is the purpose to have some sort of targeted effort with this money to actually make improvements within the CRA? In my opinion, and it kind of goes to what Tom said earlier, is that I think a lot of the money is just going to help people who were already going to spend it anyway. And as soon as we start putting any kind of restrictions on it, now you got to hire a landscape architect maybe, and you've got some additional engineering costs or other costs that you got, and it just raises the cost on their project, and they say, why bother? I don't need it that much. If you're going to give it to me as extra, I'll take it. But if I got to really, if I'm going to incur some additional costs and it's going to make my program more difficult, why mess with it? And I think that's what I have a problem with, is that, and that's the same thing, especially if it's small amounts of money. I mean, when we had the paint up program back in the day, it was an effort. People did paint because they could get the money, and they made an effort, and so we got a lot of properties painted that probably would have stayed that way for a long time. I'm just saying, I think to some degree, I don't disagree with what we're talking about in terms of how to split this up the way it is now, but I think we're wasting money because I think that we're spending money, giving people money that they were all going to spend on the first place.
You could be right on some of it, but I believe it gives them the blight that we do have and that you do see in the city, that incentive to want to be, less blightful and want to update their place. And I do believe it's a great incentive to get them to do it quicker.
How would we
I have
augment
one
it?
more thing I want to say.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask, what is the average that a person spends? Is it more than 10,000?
Yeah, we do.
Do you see
we do
people
have a
coming that
list.
want to spend 20, 30,000?
Yeah, we do have a list where they're spending more of their private money, making more of an investment, and the 10,000 match is really just small compared to what
Yeah.
they're investing on
Madam
private
Chair?
property.
I would like,
I have a $21,000 dumpster, so that gives you an idea what some of the stuff costs. I mean, that to put a dumpster back there for the restaurant, it was $21,000. So that's what I'm getting at. I mean,
$20,000 what?
to put that in, that's what it cost me to put that improvement on my property, a dumpster. So I'm just saying, a lot of this stuff, if they offered me $10,000 with a $10,000 match, if I wasn't going to do that, I'm not going to go out and spend $21,000 on something just because the city gave me 10 grand.
But I don't see dumpsters as being something we pay for.
No, that was just my point is that these things are expensive. when people
Yeah.
are doing these improvements, to do something for 10 grand anymore or 15 grand, you know, you can't do it anymore. I mean, Pinnell knows it's
Well,
just too expensive.
I was thinking just the opposite of what you were thinking. I was thinking that that incentive, that if we even made it larger, could we get some better, bigger buildings to come?
To make
what
more,
it would-
more
yeah, up it.
improvements.
Yeah, that was my,
That's
I've
up
always
to the
wanted to do
board's
that. 'Cause we
discretion
seem
if
to
you
be
want to
doing-
increase the amount.
we seem to be
Maybe
doing
for
little stuff.
architectural, if it's a more of an architectural
Yeah, we
investment,
find-
I think that's worth
Yeah.
giving a little bit more, but, you know, maybe it's a
We
specific
fine-tune it.
type of improvements,
Yeah.
not just overall.
Exactly.
Because I think that's
exactly.
more visible and it'll add character to the
I
existing.
think one day we might need to talk about that, have this conversation. Commissioner Collins?
So there's a few different kind of threads that are floating around. One would be, if there is issue with this, how would you remedy, and this is kind of just discussion, I'm throwing this out there, I'm not trying to really make a defined point. How would you make this better if the upfront expense is an issue? Would you just go ahead and prepay it out? What would be, how would you mitigate that liability, if at all, or is it not even worth talking about?
Yeah, everything that, all grants are usually reimbursement
Okay.
basis, because they have to demonstrate that they completed the work.
Right. Do you do it in pieces? Could you do half and half? Or
You could do a
something?
draw schedule just like the banks do on construction if you wanted to, depending
You
on what the
could, I
situation
mean,
was.
we would only reimburse for the portion that you completed. So like, if they really needed the money up front and they received a grant for $10,000, for instance, and they could submit receipts and reimbursement package for disbursement, for $5,000, we could pay that, and then we could pay the $5,000 upon completion of the remaining
In
work.
light of Mike's comment, would that maybe open the door to more people applying so that we use all of what we're scheduled?
We work, I mean, we really work with the applicant on some of these details, and we give extensions when it's needed, so those are
So that's
some,
not really the
it's
issue,
really at the discretion.
it's more just a lack of awareness of the program?
It's just that there's only so many people out there that want to do improvements at every one time.
Right.
And if you look at business owners, if you make it larger so that, say, someone downtown will want to redo all their windows or whatever it is, they got a building worth how many millions of dollars? Do they really need a couple $1,000s from the city? So I think this program is for the small business owner, not necessarily a owner of a piece of property, but the small business owner, so that he can improve his business, so that the outside looks better, and so we get a benefit, and at the same time, he gets a benefit by increasing his business. And I think if we leave it that way, it's fine. If we start to go all over the place, we're going to make a mess out of it.
Just one more. I like the idea of parceling this out that you two had discussed as well. One of the comments that you had made, Board Member Campenny, was sort of driving everything towards drought-tolerant plants. So I wanted to offer potentially, why not include irrigation or some, if irrigation's kind of the issue, drought-tolerant plants are not always the most attractive and lush and tropical as a plant guy, So maybe having irrigation be included within that or some portion of it for people that may not want to go all drought tolerant, or it's not really appropriate for where they're at.
Yeah.
A shadier spot or.
It really depends case by case basis. Like everything in downtown is so urbanized that it's really hard for them to even put any landscaping and then ask for irrigation. Like now if we go on US 1, yeah, I
Right.
mean, they could do, major landscape improvements and we could require them to do irrigation.
What I'm saying is including the cost of irrigation within even the landscaping,
Yeah.
up to some percentage of it,
Well, we don't require the irrigation, but if they want to spend money on the irrigation,
Right.
that could be part of the program. Is that what you're saying?
Basically, so to Commissioner McDonald's point, if you're using drought-tolerant plants, there should be no requirement to
Right.
do irrigation, but if you
Right.
are, and it's still required, maybe we help cover the cost of that as well within
Yeah.
You're-
So I think with the burp, they could still probably do minor landscaping improvements and still apply under the burp. But if they're going to be doing major improvements, then we should probably require irrigation as part of the landscape improvement program. So for that program, we could require them to do irrigation. But if they're just doing some minor, drought tolerant, they could probably fall under the burp program because they would probably be making other improvements also.
So you already have internally a way to navigate that without having to make any change to the program?
Well, we're going to have to bring back the amendments to the program to the board for approval, because right now, landscaping is required as part of the BURP program.
Got it.
So we have an application for resurfacing project, and they don't meet the minimum point requirement because they have to do landscaping. So we're not able to bring that application forward. So we're running into a lot of these,
Yeah.
applications. We can't bring it because they're not eligible.
That needs to change. Yes,
Thank you. That
definitely.
was all.
Madam Chair.
Yes, Commissioner?
Today, what do you need from us today? Do you need just recommendations and you'll bring it back, or do you need any motions today?
I think we got good recommendations. We'll make the amendments and bring both programs together. One will be the new landscaping program with irrigation requirement with the maximum $5,000. And for the BURP, we're probably just going to revert back to how the program was, and it was successful. And that's the direction I feel like I'm getting from the board.
And your map that shows the area, the outlined area, how are you going to, you're just going to have this up on the city's website, or are you going to send out a target letter to these businesses?
We send out notices to all the businesses about the program. So they're getting notices every year.
Okay.
And plus, we have our neighborhood services department, and if we feel like a property owner could use some improvements, we'll have them deliver the notice, hand deliver the notice to them.
Have you ever had like a coffee time or something to invite the businesses to tell them about have a little open house once or twice a year, or whenever the application cycle season starts? To just make sure that we're doing everything.
Education of all the CRA programs,
Yeah.
that's a good point. We could do something like that. We could invite the business owners and residents and inform them about different programs that's offered by the CRA. Or even if commissioners or mayors having coffee with the mayor or something, we could attend those meetings. And
Were you volunteering? Is that what,
We have done that.
were you volunteering to host it?
I can host one of those. Okay,
We'll continue to educate.
thank you.
Someone needs to go tell Rosewood Records to get an awning out front.
I wonder, with the money that we're talking about, that some spend and maybe they're not applying for this. In the last 3 years, have we spent the $50,000 every year? We
Yes.
have? Okay, good.
Yeah.
Good news. Well, we don't need a motion then? No. All right, well then, this meeting is adjourned.